Hey everybody, welcome to Podcast Demastered. I'm your host Ethan Meyer, and I'm joined by one of my very good friends, Chelsea. Wade is not going to be a part of this episode because he's too busy playing Elden Ring. So no, yeah, one of many reasons. No, he's not with us today. He's got some adult stuff he's got to take care of. But he'll be with us next week. So with that in mind, Chelsea and I are just going to do kind of a casual episode. We're actually going to be focusing on a specific game that Chelsea and I have played a lot of and were fond of. And yes. This is sort of our Dear John letter, so to speak, for this game. This is like us bringing them to the coffee shop, telling them, that it's not it's not them, it's us. We got to move on. The whole breakup charade. So, but that game is Destiny. I guess more specifically Destiny 2. So before we get into the reason why we're choosing not to move forward in this relationship, Chelsea, let's talk about why we got on board with Destiny and why we got into it. Head over heels. What drew us into that game specifically.
Yeah, I think definitely you actually mentioned it to me. We were definitely looking for that next game to play together because we always had, a weekly thing for a while where we would always play a different game, and it was one game that we could find that was good to have the multiplayer in it. And that was also the time that Destiny 2 announced that they were becoming a free-to-play game. And so that was also a great steal.
Yeah, that was convenient.
Too. Yes. And so hey, we'll try that out. And I think you were already familiar with the Destiny games, correct? Since you had played the first one.
Yeah, I was already a Destiny, I don't even know what the Destiny fans call themselves. Destins? I don't know. Destinauts? I don't know.
Are they Guardians, maybe? The game?
Yeah, Guardian boys? I don't know. I was already one of them because I was, I bought in early in the first Destiny. I was all, when Bungie stopped making Halos and went independent and came up with Destiny as their new IP and all the big things they were talking about it was going to be and how it was something revolutionary for gaming, and this is never, that I got sold on all the marketing for that. So I pre-ordered the OG Destiny, and that was 2013, I think 2014, which that first game definitely did not live up to all of their all their selling marks, but yeah, I've been playing I've been a Guardian since then. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's easy for me to convince friends to try something new when I can just say, oh yeah, hey, by the way, it's free to play.
Yes, that is very, very true.
Yeah. And
I was also hesitant. Oh.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially for you, because it's a shooter. And you're not really
first-person shooter.
Yeah, and you're not really you're not really a first-person shooter person.
Nope.
So what made you get into it?
I think it mainly had to do with community, in the sense that I was able to play with you and it was a fun time to hang out. And it's also, for being a shooter, I kind of view it as it's a pretty chill game in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I felt like I didn't really have to focus too much on the story, and I could just kind of enjoy just, the hanging out. But also, I think the shooter aspects were pretty fun in the game. Also, having those moments where you could use those cool abilities and you can experiment with which ones you like and everything. And so that was pretty fun. I also liked the whole not really futuristic vibe, but we could travel different planets and stuff. That space. I like space-centered games and futuristic vibes.
Yeah, I mean the it's kind of a weird, it's definitely a hybrid game because it's a shooter, but it's not like, it's not like it's Call of Duty where you're either playing this extremely like linear campaign story or you're playing competitive. Destiny is kind of a like shooter MMO. So it's got like that those moments where it's just like, hey, I'm just going to treat this like a chat room where we're just going to run around and do nothing and just talk the whole time, but still like we're playing a shooter, there's not a lot of pressure to have to like finish an objective or anything. Like all that stuff's there in that game. Like there is campaign missions and there's raids and there's this and there's multiplayer, and if you want to do competitive, they have the, oh god, I don't even remember what it's called anymore. I keep wanting to say Slayer because I've been playing Halo for like months now. But it's not Slayer, it's Crucible. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, they have Crucible for, it's just like straight up PvP. They have Gambit, which actually we played a lot of because that's kind of like PvP but also PvE, kind of a hybrid there, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because like I play a lot of competitive shooters, but that's definitely not something that you have, like you do a lot of on your own, and it's definitely nothing Wade gets into. So Wade's not a shooter guy at all. So
although he did play with us at one time.
Yeah, he played once.
And I will say that's the first time I met him too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dang, Destiny bringing us together.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, you said story. I've been dipping in and out of Destiny canon since 2013, and I have zero idea what is happening in terms of like a plot. Like I know factions, I know characters, I know like locations and stuff like that, but I don't know what we're doing or what we're fighting for or who and why and why it matters. It's more just like, hey, I logged on, there's bad guys, let's go take them out. Like like, and there's a lot of lore and a lot of world building and a lot of story there if you want to like parse it out, but I feel like it's so dense for even like, you have to be the hardest of hardcore Destiny fan to even like understand what the hell is even going on. It's like the worst kind of like MMO experience where it's like, unless you play this every single day since it's come out, you'll be lost, and that's,
yeah.
But the game makes up for it because the shooter part of it, just the gameplay itself is so fun that it's like, I don't give a shit what's going on in the background. Like at all.
Yeah. And it's fun to also just, show off like the different modifications for your characters and everything, or like the different vehicles you can have. We would joke around about like the biggest ships or like the coolest little like thing we could ride around the areas. That was a lot of fun. I did actually play all the storylines, the ones that were specifically included with the when it became free, like the Red War and I think we actually played Curse of Osiris together, and I played Warmind.
Yeah, we did Curse of Osiris, and we did Shadowkeep.
Yes, that is correct.
And we were gonna do, I think we started Forsaken maybe. But yeah, we didn't.
Or at least talked. Yeah.
Yeah, I never did the Red War, and I never did Warmind. And then yeah, I mean, we're talking about this now, and Destiny 2 just launched the Witch Queen, which is like their new big expansion, big game changer, whatever. So yeah, they're constantly putting out these like big story campaigns that somehow are like a through plot since the beginning. But like I said, I don't like, you've played the Red War, you can talk about it a little bit.
Oh, well, that's the funny part. I played it, but I'm not really sure I could tell you much about it. There's not much I remember. I remember it being just leading up to, I think there were a lot of like enemies that you thought were dead, but they were actually alive. And then you have this like super big boss battle at the end with like where they could duplicate themselves or something. I'm probably wrong, but that's all I remember. It was utter chaos. And I played that story, like a lot of these stories I played by myself too.
Yeah.
Besides the ones that we played together, so it was also kind of funny. So I'm like, I'm not really sure how this is like, because I think you should be able to play most of them multiplayer, or at least parts of them. So
Yeah, even Red War, even Red War, like you had to get to a certain threshold, I think, and then it opened up for like a fire team. But like you had to, I think there's like the tutorial part, and like maybe the first couple, like maybe like the first hour or something was supposed to be like a solo experience, because it was like storyline specific why you were alone, you know, yada yada yada, before you met up with the last battalion or whatever. I don't know. That's as far as I got. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, oh, I guess I vaguely remember the beginning of the game. It's kind of, I think, where you die the first time and then you come back like a ridiculous amount of years later, and you're like, oh, well, now you're a guardian, and basically you can just resurrect yourself anytime, and I'm here to talk to you. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
so that part was just a little, interesting. Well, Warmind actually had a more interesting story from what I remember. It had to do with the big, like, clearly it's been a while and I don't really remember this as well. It was some big weapon that was hidden inside, I don't know if it was on Mars or...
Yeah, Warmind was Mars. Because wasn't it an AI?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was just like a giant cool. like AI that was like buried on Mars or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Curse of Osiris, I don't remember anything about besides the fact that Osiris is still in Destiny doing stuff, like having trials or whatever, and
yeah.
I don't know.
Was that the one where we hopped through time, or is that a different thing we did later? I'm not sure what it was. We were trying to find him and figure out what he was doing.
Yeah, didn't they have like it wasn't like a story expansion, but wasn't it like an event or something where you had to fight, you had to defeat the sundials?
Yes.
The sundial trials or something, where you're just
I think that was one of the seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, Season of the Sundial. I'm sure
yes, that one was crazy. That's the one. It was something like that, definitely, where you got to do the events and you went back to a different time period or something, and it depended on like what type of enemies you were fighting.
Almost every. That's the other thing too, is like, at the end of the day, all these activities are just like, hey, it's a different like story reason why we're just putting you in this giant shooting gallery. Mm-hmm. Like that's what they all inevitably become. You know, it's like the Halloween thing. It's just like, oh, you're just gonna run through these dark levels and just kill a bunch of people and then fight a pumpkin boss, or you're running through this like labyrinthian
that one was cool
maze.
And wild.
Yeah, but it's like every single activity is just like the same. Besides the one, remember that I can't even remember what the activity was called, but we tried it with my sister, and it was more like solving puzzles. Okay. Remember that? It was like something 9 or.
Oh, was that the thing where you had to like throw the balls or something too?
Yeah,
like
yeah. It was like color specific orbs into pillars, and then like the enemies were like ridiculously OP, and we were so bad at it.
I think we needed more people. We just that also was a disappointment because there were certain like raids and stuff we couldn't do because we needed more people.
Yeah, I've been playing Destiny since 2013. I have never once been able to do a raid because raids do not have matchmaking, which on one hand I understand, because raids, like, from what I understand from people like seeing streamers play it or just listening to people talk about who have played them, there's a lot of communication involved. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts to finish them. So just matchmaking with randos, if no one's wearing a mic, I can see it being very
frustrating.
Frustrating. Not a super great experience for like their big showcase pieces, because that's essentially what they are. It's like that's what they put all their, their creative ideas. They throw that shit in the raid. never been able to do one because it's usually just you and I, sometimes one other person, and you have to have like 6 minimum.
I think it's 6, yeah.
To do a raid. It's like, oh, we recommend like 8 players, but it's like minimum 6. I'm just like, I don't even have like 6 people to even play Destiny. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I gotta have 6 people. So yeah, never got to do that. I wish it would have matchmaking or something, like introduce a pinging system like every other shooter on the planet has now, where you could just ping an objective or a weapon or an enemy, so you don't need mics to communicate anymore. I feel like that's, they could figure something out for that. Like that's literally the only activity in the game that doesn't have matchmaking.
Yeah. So. I think there was stuff you could do on the app or something with that, but I was never really sure how that worked, so I never risked it.
On the companion app, it had something like find a fire team, and it would just be like, it's like this weird lexicon or full of abbreviations that you're supposed to know what any of these people are asking me for. It's like, I need 3 people for the ABR, TRD, DD, and I'm just like, I don't. Is that a thing? What is that? I don't know what you're asking me to do.
I was like, I feel like I played that game a lot, but apparently I did not play it enough to know what those things meant.
I was not deep enough into that fan Discord to understand what the hell any of that was. So yeah, it was very much a chat room for us. It was very much a stupid thing that we could get on, not have to put a whole lot of effort or willpower into, and just basically just run around and shoot aliens for a couple hours while we're catching up on the week. Kind of like the same thing that like ESO is.
Yes.
If ESO was a shooter, it's just like the same thing. It's just like that old school MMO thing. It's like you got your character. Go in there, you're going to grind the same activities over and over and over until you get that shiny piece of whatever.
Yes.
So you can show it off at the tower with your new dance moves that you just bought in the store. You play a electric guitar before a match of Gambit, so the enemies know that you're intimidating, or whatever.
Exactly.
All
those dance moves.
All that stupid stuff.
Yes.
So what was your favorite thing to do in Destiny? Like, even if you played like solo, like what was the thing that you were logging on to do?
Well, I think first and foremost, the thing that I definitely wanted to accomplish in the game was I did actually want to, at least do all the storylines. And so that was something that I definitely did. And then, I don't know, I would just get on sometimes just randomly just to, just explore different areas. I like to, fill out quests and do all those requests.
Yeah.
But I did have a lot of fun with some of like the PvP modes. I did like Gambit a lot. I played that by myself sometimes too.
Yep. Gambit was the thing that if it was just me, like if I was just logging on to play, I would just be like, all right, I'm just going to play Gambit for an hour. Like, I would play Crucible because I like PvP shooters. I've been playing that stuff. I've been playing, stuff like Halo and Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff since, they were on the internet. So, I like that kind of stuff. I could never get into Destiny's PvP mode, and I don't really know why that is, because like there's parts like there's ranked, and then there's just like normal where like everyone like it's sort of balanced, where it's not someone just running around with like a super weapon and one shot killing everybody. Like it's fairly balanced to an extent.
Yeah.
And then there's ranked mode or like there's like another mode I can't even think of now where it's just like everyone just plays with whatever equipment they have on hand kind of thing. Like trials of something. I never did any of that stuff because I was never a high level. Like I never had a lot of exotics and a really crazy build that was like specific to whatever. Like I never got that into it for PvP sake. But yeah, I don't know. I could never get into Crucible, even though I would keep trying over and over and over, and it's just like never really hit for me. But man, Gambit's where it's at. Gambit was so much fun. The fact that it was, so for anyone who hasn't played, Gambit is essentially, it's PvP in a sense where it's 2 teams of 4 going up against each other, but you're fighting the AI to get basically like points essentially. And whoever gets like the hits the threshold of points summons a boss, and then whichever team kills the boss first wins. So you're not really like fighting against the other team, so to speak. You're just kind of fighting to get who can accumulate the score the fastest. And like there's a little like trickery where like one person from a team can invade the other team and cause mischief and whatever, and that was fun. I liked being the invader. I liked being the disruptor.
That was not me. I sucked at that.
Oh, I wasn't always good at it, but I just liked going in there, just if anything, just to distract them or cause chaos mischief. Or just divert their attention from whatever. Like, but yeah, just the PvE / PvP mode. Like, I just thought that was like really fun, really a like competitive mode that kind of fit for like anybody. You know, because like you really liked it because it's essentially just we're fighting the computer, but it's still competitive because we're against another team, but you don't necessarily have to fight that other team one-on-one. Yeah. You know, so it kind of is like a mode for like everybody.
Definitely.
It can be extremely frustrating though if you're on a really like shitty team.
Oh yeah.
Where
we'd have just nights of just losing constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a strategy to that mode, and I feel like there's definitely that time where you get on a team and people just do not understand like that winning formula, and they're just causing you to lose because of it. Like, that's the most frustrating part about it, is it is very much like a team focused like gameplay mode, you know. Like, you have to have a functioning team to win. Like, you could do as much as you can as a lone wolf to carry the team, but at the end of the day, like, it's 100% a team effort. Yeah. Because even if you're getting all the orbs and doing everything, if you got a guy that's sitting there losing 50 of them all the time, you know, like, it's just it slows down the whole process.
Yeah. I know, that was definitely frustrating, but I feel like I couldn't hate too much on those people, especially if they're truly people who didn't know what was going on, because I was that person at one point, or at one point for a while, so I was like, okay, I'll cut them some slack.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yeah,
everybody's new at it at some point, you know? Everybody's got to figure it out. There's this, sometimes, man, it just cuts you the wrong way. Cuts you the wrong. You're just like, oh my god, we're so close to winning, but this guy's a fucking idiot. Yeah. This is ruining it for everybody.
No, totally understandable.
You see a guy just like running around the map with like 15 orbs, and like you're just yelling at your screen, "Bank him, for the love of God, please bank him! What are you doing?"
Like, he died. No.
Oh, he died. Okay, cool, awesome, and just lost them all.
Yep.
That would happen many a times.
Yes.
I think the other really cool game mode that I liked was Strike, which was just strictly PvE, and they were just kind of like these little mini missions. You know, you're dropped into just like a random area. It's very linear. You know, you're essentially just starting from point A, trying to get to point B, kill the boss, and you win, and you get a bunch of loot and money and weapons, and like, it's a very simple concept, but it's very repeatable, you know? Did you like Strikes?
Yeah. They weren't too bad. I feel like I did them with you and, every once in a while, but they definitely were kind of long, surprisingly. Some of them could really be.
Some of them could be like an hour, depending on what you're doing. And like, there towards the end, I was playing a lot of the Nightfalls, which are they're like Strikes, but even harder.
Yes. I did a couple of those.
Yeah, those are pretty some of that stuff can take quite a bit of time for something that's like a fairly linear experience, you know.
Yeah.
But I could never complete a dungeon. Did you ever complete one of the dungeons, which are kind of like strikes, but they're like a step above a strike and then a step below a raid? Because you could technically do a dungeon by yourself, I guess, because there was no requirement. But like, I think that one thing that we tried doing with the pillars, I think that technically was a dungeon.
Oh.
Like
Okay,
the nine, whatever. But there was another one that was in oh, I can't even remember the place. I can't God dang it. It was like the map was like in like a temple, but then it looked like it was just like floating in space. It was like really trippy. Anyways, I tried doing it with my sister, and it was not only is the map like a labyrinth, but you would get to this one point where you're being chased by like hundreds of like ghosts, basically. And if they touch you, it's instant death.
Oh, I remember you talking about this one. It sounded insane.
It was the fucking worst. Because you're trying to run through this like labyrinth and jumping over things and navigating these tunnels and hallways, and you're just being like, you turn around, there's like 50 dudes, like 50 like ghost creatures just like,
oh my gosh,
hot on your tail. And yeah, like there was no like fighting them, like they just instant kill you. And then we could never beat it because we could never get past that part, because we'd either get stuck or lost or running around in circles, or yeah, it was those things. Definitely not. Or I think at one point we did get past it actually, but then we went into like this big like amphitheater, and then there was just like 9 like bosses in there.
Oh no.
Like these big like rancor looking dudes. And you had to like you couldn't do damage to them until you found like a certain item, and then you had to take that item and put it on a certain pillar, and that activated this, which lowered its shields, and then the whole time there's like 100 dudes in the dark shooting at you. Then you got these bosses shooting at you, and it's just like, who the hell does this? Like, this is chaotic. Especially just two of us.
You had to have more people. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that just sucks. Yeah, it's a game that they want you to have more people playing with on those certain aspects, and that's really difficult for some people who only have a couple people to play with.
Yeah, which if I guess now will be the transition into the part of the program where we move on to why we are no longer playing Destiny. And one of those reasons is that that kind of like gatekeeper mentality where it's kind of a game that forces you to play a lot of the content with a large group of people, because I think it's easy for a lot of people to just, especially developers or people in the gaming industry in that space, to just assume that everyone has this huge collection of gamers that just play all this shit. But that's not always the case, you know? Like, I have a very small stable of friends that play video games, and every single one of them has a completely different type of game they like to play, and they pretty much stick to that lane. So trying to gather all of them to play a game that I want to play is nearly impossible. So, which means I get cut off from getting to play half of this game's content because I don't have enough people, you know, to do it. And that sucks, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I was right there with you with that, because we would have each other to play with, but we needed more than that. And I also just felt like I did all the stories and everything, and I wasn't really going to get fulfilled every day playing this game, just doing the same thing over and over again.
Oh yeah, especially solo, because If you take away just the sessions that we would have, where it's just you and I basically like the equivalent of talking on the phone, you know.
Yeah.
If you take that away, then the sheen starts to wear off, and you realize how tedious the game is, you know, and how just like monotonous it becomes, and every task is so similar, and everything is repeatable, and it's just like I've done this 1,000 times, you know. That grind becomes way more apparent when you take away like the communal part of it. You know, like as a solo experience, it's not super fulfilling, I would say.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the cool content, not only from like a story or gameplay, but just like gear, is also gated off to those more higher end experiences. Like you play a raid and you're like guaranteed these exotics and all this crazy shit. Well, I'll never get to play a raid, so when do I have to go to the store and buy all this stuff? You know, like just because I can't get 7 people to play this game with me. Like, yeah, that stuff sucks.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just in general, like it was something, that we definitely did as that community aspect. And this was a game that in 2019 and 2020 specifically was my #1 most played game those years.
Yeah.
And then so like I this is not me just like super casually playing it, but I definitely played a lot of this game. And then in 2021 it didn't even make my top 5 most played games.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I mean,
but that
because you can go ahead and talk about why 2020 was like a big turning point.
Why? I mean, there was a lots of factors with why 2021 did not have as much, but I think the biggest turning point was when they announced that they were going to have this, they made it sound really cool at the time, the Destiny content vault. I guess Bungie felt there was too much content, or they like couldn't manage all of it at once, so they decided we're going to put it away for a bit in a vault, so that we'll eventually revamp it and rotate it out. Well, so far I haven't seen the rotating it out part. I've just seen it go away into the vault, and that's really a disappointment, when some of these things were also things that does also play as real downer, or things that people actually paid for.
Yeah, that's the real kicker, because as a free-to-play game, if they want to come out and be like, hey, we're taking away this because our numbers show that it's like the least performing activity, so we're going to take it out and put something in its place. As a free-to-play, it's a lot harder to get sour about that, because it's like, all right, cool, whatever. It sucks. I actually like playing that, but whatever. But when they take away content that is paid DLC expansions, and they're like, nah, we think you've had enough time. You should have played it by now. It's just like, excuse me, I don't work on your fucking schedule. Like, I bought this. I should be able to play it whenever I'm goddamn good and ready, And that was a huge, like, knife in the back to me, I think. And a lot of people in that community don't really care or see it that way, because most of those people in the community are in that mindset where it's like, yeah, I've already played this before, so I don't care, take it away. But I don't have the luxury to play a live service or an MMO for fucking 6 hours a day every day. Like, that's just, not only do I have 100 other games that I want to play, but I also have, just regular adulting shit I gotta do. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just... it'd be different if I was a 12-year-old and this is all I did. I went to school and came home and played Destiny until I went to bed. But that's not the case anymore,
Yeah. And it sucks, too, because, some of those expansion packs, like, we didn't buy those exactly when they were released. We bought them much later, and we thought, that's, would give us ample time to play it. Well, unfortunately, our time was even cut even more short because of when we purchased it, and then that just made it difficult. And then I think because of all those things in general, I also just really wanted to focus on my backlog. And because I had already done a lot in those games, that's why also in like after 2020, but even though 2020 was my number one game, was Destiny. In 2021, I had so many other games to worry about. I just kind of was letting it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, same. Like, I was already, I guess, kind of like, that's a game that I would get really hot and heavy for a while, for a couple months. I'll be like, all right, I want to play this like once or twice a week, you know, and then I would be like, hey, I don't want to touch this for like 6 months. You know, like I kind of
out.
Yeah, I kind of get that mentality with most like these big continuous like live service games and these MMOs and these, you know, these continued experiences. I don't have it in me to just only focus on that for what they are expecting, I guess, or what they want. Even if I did have unlimited time, I guess I still would probably burn out and be like, all right, I have to play something different. I've been playing this game for like 6 months straight. I'm fucking tired of it. Like, I gotta move on, you know? And I was kind of already hitting that point when they came out with the Destiny content vault. And that was kind of just like, you know, the final nail in the coffin. Because it's essentially, you know, if you're a 90s kid, you remember the Disney vault, where they put all the movies in the vault, and then they would do like, all right, here's our special VHS release of 101 Dalmatians. It's only going to be in stores for 2 months, and then it's going back in the vault, and you will never get to buy it again, except, you know, until next year. You know, like, it's kind of the same thing. But
still,
it's kind of the same thing with Destiny. It's like, all right, we're gonna take this game, we're gonna slice it in half, and we're gonna take that half and put it away. And we're gonna optimize it or whatever the shit, and put something else here new. It's got something new and hot and fresh for you to work on. Which, you know, like we said, that's all well and good, but when that half that you sliced away is like paid content from a consumer, like, that's just, I don't know. I don't understand how that's okay. Like, I get it, like, oh, read the terms of services, dude. Read the license agreement. Like, I get it. We live in a digital future where they own everything. You don't actually own your media that you buy. You know, I get that. It still doesn't make it right. It's like, it's still a shitty experience.
And it's definitely more the mindset, I feel like, this game, too. It's kind of, we already alluded to. It seems they're focusing more on those who have always played Destiny at this point and have just continued with the storyline, and it's really hard for those newcomers or casuals to get invested or be able to latch on to anything, because the things that they might have latched onto, they're gone the next week or something, and it's challenging.
Yeah, they tried making up for it when they took away a lot of the you know, the story content by introducing the timeline. Where it's like, hey, I know you paid for this expansion, but I know you can't play it now, but you can read this brief paragraph that will tell you what happens in it. It's like, oh, thanks.
People don't play video games to read all the time.
Exactly. I paid $15 to read this little, you know, blurb that she wrote about it. Cool. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, from a business standpoint, I get it, because they're like, all right, we need to focus on the whales, so to speak, the players who are gonna play this every single day, that are streaming this on Twitch and shit, that, you know, we got to focus to that audience, because that's our, you know, that's where our money comes from, being a free-to-play experience. But yeah, it does ice out people like us and casuals, or someone who wants to hop into it for the first time, and like, they don't, if they see that stuff is being torn away like that, and there's a lack of trust between the consumer and the developer on what I can actually, like, what I should do, or when I should do it, or is this going to get taken away? Should I even spend money on this, because are you just going to take this away? Like, would I go out and buy the Witch Queen right now if I know in a year they're going to yank it for something else? No, I'm not going to. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think that it just,
well, and these are not like super cheap themes. They're like full price games.
Yeah,
for some of these content.
Yeah, I mean, if you if you were the person that bought Destiny 2 before it went free to play as a $60 game, and then now you can't even play any of that Destiny 2 game because they already taken it all out. I mean, what the hell? Oh, sorry, you're not going to be able to play the Destiny 2 campaign anymore, but here's our paragraph for that. Awesome.
And if you want to play more, you have to spend an extra $30+ for the new content.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah. So, regardless of like how like fundamentally and like technically sound the game is from just like a pure gameplay standpoint, the fact that all the business decisions and and you can't even blame it on publisher now because Bungie's independent. This is just straight up Bungie doing this. They can't just be like, oh, it's Activision making us do it, or like Sony just acquired them, but Sony doesn't have shit to do with Destiny. Yeah, it doesn't matter. This is straight up Bungie and Bungie decisions. And like a lot of their reasoning behind it is like, oh, we can't manage we're doing this so people's quest logs don't get unmanageable, or we're doing this to make sure the load times are smaller, and we're doing, I feel like a lot of that's bullshit. Like,
yeah,
you're taking away content I paid for because you're afraid my quest log is going to get too big. Make a drop down.
That's my choice.
Menu. Yeah, make a drop down menu. Find a better UI system to manage it. Like, I play Skyrim, motherfucker. I'm used to quest logs that have 400 quests in them that I'll never do. Like, I know how to manage that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, don't. I don't know.
I can handle reading that, just not paragraphs about the content I missed out on.
Yeah. And I get the optimization aspect of it, because this is a cross-generational game. So if they were saying, like, okay, hey, we're going to take Mars as a location. We're going to take that away and put it back in the development soup, so we can polish it up, new textures, fully optimize it for these new consoles and whatever, and then release it and back to you in 6 months. Cool, that's great. That makes all the sense in the world. But they're not doing that. They're taking away like actual like paid expansions that they sold in the store. And they're not doing it to optimize it. They're doing it because everyone should have played it by now. That's a shit excuse from a developer that used to be in my like pantheon of developers. Because like Bungie was one of my all-time favorite developers because they did, the Halo series, which is like one of my favorite game series of all time. But I don't know. They just like lost their way. I don't know if it's because they were with Activision too long and they picked up bad habits or what. But I don't know. I don't know what's happened here lately. But yeah.
Well, hopefully they realize the error in their ways at some point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can hope.
And like, we're sitting here, us two nobodies, complaining about this, and that game is still doing quite well, financially speaking. Most of the expansions they've come out with, when they take away one and they add one, the new one usually gets, like praise, like, oh, it's really good, it's really fun, da 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 da. But I don't know. Objectively, I can't agree with stripping content in favor of new content just because a certain sect is like craving it. I just don't think there's any excuse that makes sense to me. Like, look at all these MMOs that have been like WoW and Final Fantasy 14 and all these like big MMOs. They don't take away their paid content.
I was like, even ESO.
Or like ESO and ESO, like every DLC that they've ever sold, that's all that shit's still there. Like, I don't know, Bungie, maybe buy more servers. I don't know what the fuck's your issue. Like, you can't manage it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That seems like a you problem, and you shouldn't be passing that buck on to your players, is how I see it. And I'm just, an armchair developer here. I obviously know how all this stuff works in the background, but seeing as like there's no precedent for this, I I can't believe their excuse for it. If this was like a common occurrence, then it would make more sense to me. But they're literally the only person in town pulling this shit, so it does not make sense to me.
It's very disheartening. And so it's, yeah, definitely, I mean, because even after they announced all that stuff, when I heard about Beyond Light, when that expansion came out, it still intrigued me a bit, but I just couldn't get over the fact of also I had to pay more money for that they could eventually take it away, that I would have like to rush through it.
Yeah.
And I had so many other games at the time. It was just, I think I'll just skip it.
Yep, same. I was the same way. I was just like, I don't trust you guys anymore. Like, I'm not giving you money because I just don't know what's like safe anymore. So I'm done.
Yeah. And I can acknowledge like the new one looks really cool too, but it's the same feelings behind it.
Yeah, for sure. It does look cool, but yeah, I'm not giving them any more money because it's just, you've lost my trust, Bungie and Destiny, and for that I think we should see other people.
Yes.
And for me, that other lady is Elden Ring. So deuces.
Oh, and I have a current love-hate relationship with Red Dead Redemption 2. So
yeah, Chelsea's in a very toxic relationship right now.
Yes. Oh, I might be almost done with it. We'll see.
Oh, boy. We'll save that for another episode where Wade is not around. All right. I think we talked enough about Destiny and our
it's
tumultuous
our destiny to end this episode.
Yeah. So take us out.
Yes. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode, for sticking with us, sharing our feelings on Destiny. Let us know if you have the similar feelings to us, or if you have the opposite feelings. You can let us know on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PodDemastered. You can also send us an email. It doesn't have to be about Destiny. It could be about anything else, any comments, feedback, or things you want us to talk about in the future. That email address is demasteredpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Share it with a friend. And we hope you tune into next week's episode. Thanks again. Bye.
See you guys.